There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
All right, you guys ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, because we've already started, so sons of bitches, let's get doing. Let's get going. How you doing? Welcome to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am your host, the one and only Death Ship McGee.
Nick, as always.
Nick.
I'm Nick as always.
Nick.
Yeah, no, I'm the little prairie dog. Woohoo!
Poppy.
Yeah, Poppy.
Poppy the
Poppy. Woohoo!
Poppy.
Oh, good lord.
So before we actually begin, I gotta apologize about releasing the episode late. Things happen not under my control. So
How dare you?
I'm sorry. I
Be
know.
ashamed of yourself.
Shit.
I'm like the Godzilla -1. You know, I rise.
You
and
wish
fall.
you were Godzilla -1.
I don't.
I'm
Yeah.
Godzilla +1.
Yeah, I'm Godzilla ×1.
What's that
Wait.
name mean, by the way? Why is it called -1? Is that like a translation
Godzilla,
thing?
Yeah. Godzilla, what's minus him? Let's get him out of here.
I mean, I heard the
don't know.
movie's
It's
really
a
good,
Japanese
but-
term.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's the best movie ever made by man.
Ever.
Better than Remo
Wow,
Williams.
that's
better
like-
than-
No, well,
Schindler's List. Better than
I get crazy.
Amazing Bulk. More amazing than a cup of white bread.
Yeah.
Is it better than
Anyway.
Gleaming the Cube?
No, nothing's better than Gleaming the Cube, sir. What are you talking about?
Like Christian Slater in it. And some
Was
Asian
it? Oh, I was thinking that was the Gaspar Noé film. But I'm thinking of a different.
guy. No. Oh no, you're thinking of that movie. Yeah. No, Gleaming the Cube, the skateboarding movie from the 80s.
I remember watching it, but I can't tell you if it's better than Godzilla.
Deadzilla?
Yeah,
-1.
Deadzilla. That's what this episode should be called. Deadzilla -1.
No, here we go again.
No, Jacob, you have no idea what I think about this episode. I can think this is the greatest episode ever. I can think it was the worst episode ever.
Let's not get
All I
crazy.
know
Well,
is
then
I'm
let's get
waiting-
into talking about it.
I'm waiting for Jacob to say when's the terrible episode coming up.
That's at the end.
I am still waiting for them terrible episodes from season 4. I mean, we're 6 episodes in, which is equivalent to 12.
And I
Right.
would once again like to point out that I never said these episodes were terrible. That was all the guy next to me.
I will point
Trev,
out,
why do you keep
that
putting
next
stuff on
week-
my plate?
I do think
Because
that
you're the
next
one that
week
said
is
it.
going to be the breaking point from what I've heard.
Well, just because I don't like it doesn't mean you guys can't. I'm not
I ain't gonna
hold
lie,
it.
man. I know we're skipping forward a little bit here. I've heard so much about these Jezebels, but like
Jizbells.
Balls.
Jizzy Bells. But
Jizzy
I-
balls.
the preview, which the previews this season are all over the place. The little preview they give, but the preview
There's
for
a
this one-
Jaguar. It disappears.
Yeah, the preview for this one, I
Loki.
was not like, yeah, I can't wait till next week. I was like, oh, that's the one. I think we might have a contender. you know?
Well, y'all
Maybe
know
found
where
a-
I'm ranking it, so
And I mean, I might love it. And it's
You
Earl
might.
Hamner Jr. too, which I mean, he made the fucking Waltons, man. But
Yeah, but not for every Waltons. There's always going to be a Jezebel in the
See, and you
repertoire. Of a
you think
writer.
is you haven't seen it, so I'm not trying to go against my own thoughts on this whole thing, but you guys have to judge this based on your own thoughts, not based on mine.
we'll
I'm
see.
just going with what
We'll
you
see
said,
next week.
Trev.
That's right, we will.
But
I will
anyways,
say it's been a
There
long
was
time
a
since I've seen it.
Jaguar.
It's been a long time since I've
Jaguar.
seen it, so it definitely it has like cat people vibes, like 40s cat people.
I ain't never seen a cat with spots like that.
No, then you probably won't for a while.
the real question remains: will it be the worst episode we've ever watched? We'll find
By
out
my
next week.
estimation, yes. By your estimation, I highly doubt it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, Trev. We could talk about this episode, which could be terrible. I don't know.
I can say
But-
that as far as next week, before we go any further, the period that it takes place in, those like period pieces like that, is not my favorite.
Fair.
Because it looks like it's like Civil War era, maybe, or maybe
Not-
later than that.
Yeah, I would say later than that. It's not. It's probably like
Not Civil
early
War, but-
20th century,
Okay.
like maybe 40s, maybe 30s.
Well, I guess I don't mind the 40s. I don't know. The aesthetic of the episode, the little bit that I saw, I was like, I don't usually love this setting. That doesn't mean I won't like it. I mean, there's some things that are set in that type of setting that I do enjoy, but there have been more things that I don't. That's going into it. It's
Right.
like going into this one, knowing what the setting was. I was like, okay, I'm already on board. Going into that one, I'm like, all right, you're gonna have to get me.
Yeah.
Get
It's
me.
kind
Okay,
of
so-
like
Else.
backwater Appalachia,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
if you
never
want to
been a thing.
go, I mean, I would say like Hatfield, McCoy era, so whatever that would be. Like,
Yeah. I lived in Tennessee, close to Kentucky, and went up to Kentucky a bunch of times, and hell, just in Tennessee even. And I saw enough of that in real life. It's, no.
Well,
I mean,
I mean, it
just by
depends on where you-
clothing, you could say it's probably late 19th, early 20th century. That would be
Yeah.
my thought on the subject. Not Civil
I feel
War,
like-
but
Yeah.
I feel like there's a misconception about Tennessee and Kentucky. Like the whole area is just nothing but Appalachia mountains and stuff like that. But like I've been to Lexington and stuff like that. There is a lot of
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, normalcy to those states. Like Kentucky,
Well,
Well,
like,
yeah, that's like saying Iowa is all corn.
I mean, Iowa is all corn trip. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's not.
Shit.
No, Kentucky and Tennessee they got their fine parts, but there's the mountain folk up there. the
Oh, I
black
mean,
folk
I
in
could say
Kentucky.
you can say the same thing about any state. Like Ohio very much has a backwoods, very country vibe, and
I
Florida
have other
has
thoughts on Tennessee,
alligators.
so. I have
We
many
should
other
probably
thoughts.
actually talk about this episode.
Yeah, Triv's trying to pull us along after what happened last week. The craziness that was the last episode.
No,
we
it's
talked
not a
about.
problem. It's just we're on this episode. Let's talk this episode.
Yeah, bitch.
I see how it is, Jacob. She's trying to take over the show, Jacob.
Not really. I
No,
have no
kid.
desire to do that.
Taking
But
it over.
No, I'm kidding.
taking
people
it
have
I wouldn't
back.
want
come to
anybody
talk
to do
about
that.
Death Ship, so
taking it
let's
back.
talk about Death. Yeah. So
Taking it back.
Let's talk
Okay,
Death.
so the episode we are going to talk about, so we can get
It's
Triv out of here,
probably
'cause-
Jezebel.
Yes, the episode is season 4, episode 7, Jezebel, directed by I don't know yet because I haven't seen the episode. No, the episode we're
Could
going to talk about. We could. Or I could just fall asleep. See, Triv, if you want something to fall asleep to, watch Remo Williams.
You shut
It's a
your
good fall.
Harrison, shut your damn mouth. Move along. Death ship.
Yes.
Moving
about
on.
Death Ship? Stop
I
So
getting
death
season-
shipped my pants.
So
I
see-
death
so
shipped
we're talking
my
about-
bed.
We're just talking about season 4, episode 6, Death Ship, directed by Don Medford, written by Richard Matheson, based on a story by Richard Matheson. Production code 4850, air date February 7th, 1963. So yeah, so right before Valentine's Day, a good episode before Valentine's Day. Stars Jack Klugman, Russ Martin, and Fred Bear. I watched this with Triv because Jacob, you actually have a life, unlike the two of us who apparently
Wow,
don't have a
thanks.
life.
I wouldn't
No,
say I
I'm
have a
kidding.
life. I just have things to do.
Yeah, Jacob, who's actually quite busy, had a chance to watch this, but we watched this episode, and I am quite positive on this episode. It has everything that Jacob likes, everything that Triv, I'm assuming, likes, and this is a proper Twilight Zone episode. Just it's a little too. I think you could have shaved off maybe 5 minutes or so of this episode, but
It
I think
absolutely could have
for
been a
a-
30-minute show.
yeah,
30-minute
I think.
episode.
Yeah.
But I think you won't get the emotional impact that this episode is trying to do, which is what makes this episode succeed. And this would be, I'm going to be honest with you, this would be a top 20 episode for me because it's just Jack Klugman and the Russ Martin and Fred Bear just really sell
Yeah.
how fucking disturbed this episode. This episode gets really disturbed and like really uncomfortable to watch because it's all about your fears of man and fears of like losing everything and like being out of control and not having control. And I don't know, Jacob, as the one person I don't know who thought about this episode, which I'm assuming you liked, what do you think of this episode?
I liked it. Like I said a second ago, I think it definitely could have been a classic 24-minute episode, but I
Yeah.
don't think it loses anything by being an hour long or 50-minute long episode. I, in fact, think it gains something. Like you said, you get a bit more of an emotional impact
Yeah.
from it. And it has an opportunity to explore a bit more of the situation that is going on in the episode. And I think they did that well. I thought it was a good episode. I really enjoyed it. I am already drawn in, like I said a minute ago, as soon as, it's a spaceship. I'm like, I'm there. It's sci-fi, so I'm already like
It's a
on
forbidden
board.
spaceship.
It's not just any
Um,
spaceship. It's a Forbidden Zone spaceship.
It's a Cruiser E89.
Yeah.
Exactly.
According to what I just saw in the corner of my eye. But I had the ending. I guess the only like critique I would have of the whole thing, I thought it raised a lot of interesting questions, and I thought it did well with it. It talked about those questions too. It didn't just like say something and then just move on to the next thing. The ending did kind of like just come fast. The episode was very methodical. It was like moving along at a decent clip, but it was like it had its own pace. And then all of a sudden, like the ending happened, I felt like. Now we were working up to it the whole time. So it
That seems
wasn't
to
like,
be something that you have issues like with the season 4 is like it has like a very methodical pace, and then like you said, it's happened on
yeah.
Valley of the Shadow, I think it was, or one of the
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
episodes.
and
almost like
mute.
they have a
Yeah.
lot of time and they know, okay, we got to use up all this time. So they do it. And I think they do. I've noticed that about this season. A lot of these episodes, it's like this could have been shorter, but I see that they spent time to like, I mean, pad it out, if you will, or expand upon it of the story. And I think that they do a really good job with that. But there have been a few episodes that like it's kind of like they expanded upon it so much and started getting into it, and then they were like, oh well, we gotta end this thing, and then they just kind of like go into the original ending the way it would have originally happened, and instead of kind of like having that same kind of like slow build to it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think this one's as jarring as I don't remember which one you're talking about, but there was one recently I said that
It
I was
was
like,
He's
it was like,
Alive,
yeah,
Yeah.
whichever
the
one. I
Nazi
remember
one.
thinking that it was like, yeah, we'll go. Oh, we're done. It was like just happened. I don't think this one does that, but I did feel like, and this is a minor, not even a complaint. It's an observation that I did feel like the end just kind of like popped up. I felt like I was surprised it was over. I didn't realize that was a good thing too. I didn't realize I've been watching it for 50 minutes. I thought there was more to go. And maybe that was part of it. It was moving along at such a good
Yeah.
pace that I didn't realize that it was so. I've been watching it all that time. So I thought there was more that was going to happen. And then it just, nope, here we are at the end. And I was like, oh, okay. So it wasn't really like,
I think
it possibly wasn't abrupt. It was possibly just so well paced that
Yeah.
I expected more.
I think it drew you. I
well,
think it kept you like engaged, and
Very much
it
so.
kind of
Yeah.
kept you guessing at, okay, well, because I mean, Nick can attest to this. I threw out all kinds of theories like, oh, it's this. Oh, is it
yeah,
that? Is it?
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be what it was.
yeah,
I
this is
had
the
kind
first
of
episode
pulled
that I
it.
had no idea either.
Yeah, this is the first time I'd seen it, and I had pulled early on what kind of ended up being the thing, but yeah, it's certainly because of the way it goes, you kind of go, oh well, given newer experience, I could have go this way, it could go that way.
I think
Well,
as we sit here and I talked about it and I opened up about it to you guys and we talk about, I think maybe it wasn't that it was abrupt. I think maybe the end, how we got there, everything. I don't know, man. I'm really trying to wrap my head around it because I didn't dislike it in any way. So what was it that stuck out to me? I think that the reveal of what's going on is very like, it's this, just face it. And that seemed abrupt when everything else, I think maybe I was expecting them to kind of like have this slow reveal. And as we realized what it was,
Right,
and we didn't really realize we were told what it was.
right. It is kind of a car crash, like not the story like in a bad way, but like it's like you're going along, and all of a sudden you realize that you've been in a crash, kind of a thing.
That's kind of
Like
topical
literally
for this
they
episode.
yeah, literally they crash. But I think that's kind of like the realization to the audience. It's like, it's like boom.
Yeah. And maybe
If
it's
you
supposed to
had
be sudden like that,
questions,
just like it was to them.
that's kind of what I came from with it.
Yeah.
But
I told Triv that my honest view of this episode, like when we were watching it, that it was gonna play out like that movie Moon. You've seen the movie,
Yeah.
right?
That's
You
a good
see
movie.
with
David
yeah, yeah.
Bowie's son.
But
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like that. But when it turned out to be what it ended up being, it was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense because it's an episode about three guys who basically they're trying to find a planet for their race, like for
Overpopulation.
Earth.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
They're
because
trying to
Earth
find
is dying.
shit. Not populated, but
An unpopulated planet where they can
unpopulated planets that are suitable for
Yeah.
colonize.
for life.
Yeah, we just had a little bit of editing there to make it sound like we never had any problems. But no, Death Ship. So Death Ship is about
Not
is
1980.
actually, yeah, not the 1981 that we watched while
Oh,
we were
waiting.
fixing our problems. Basically, this story is based off the famous Flying Dutchman story, which is of course about a ghost ship. And I guess is that right? Is it like a ghost pirate ship?
It's
Yeah.
basically
like-
like any pirates that die are picked up by Davy Jones on the Flying Dutchman.
Oh, okay. I keep thinking of the SpongeBob episode. I don't know if you've ever seen it with the Flying
Oh yeah,
Dutchman or the
yeah.
Frying Dutchman or whatever.
They go to
Well, he's
Davy
trying to learn how to-
Jones's locker, or maybe
he's
are
trying to
oh
learn
they
how to
are
tie
the same
shoes.
thing. They are the same thing, aren't they? Davy Jones and the Flying
Yeah.
Dutchman.
There's different stories from different countries. It says the oldest known extant version of the legends dates from the 18th century. According to the legend, if hailed by another ship, the crew of the Flying Dutchman might try to send messages to land or people long dead, reporting sightings, blah, blah, blah. In ocean lore, the site of the Phantom ship functions as a port
I
of
just
doom.
remember SpongeBob asking Davy Jones how to tie a shoe, and he had like a little ghost tail, and he's like, I don't know, I haven't worn shoes in hundreds of years.
Isn't it ironic, like these famous stories? Oh yeah, the only reason I remember is because of SpongeBob
SpongeBob
SquarePants.
SquarePants.
Well, look at. I
Yeah.
mean, the only
And
reason I
Pirates of
know
the Caribbean.
opera is because of Looney Tunes.
Only reason you know what? Opera?
Only reason I know opera is because of Looney Tunes.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there were the
That's
Bugs
some good
Bunny
opera.
opera episodes.
Yeah,
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 that's how I got to know a little bit about opera.
I've been
Because
to
I
an
don't know
opera.
jack shit.
I've been to
Nice.
an opera.
Congratulations.
It was actually, I felt super swanky.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a Spanish
no-
opera.
Nice.
The only
Was it
reason I
Star
know-
Wars?
Subtitles?
Star Wars?
No, it was, I mean, it was like a legit opera. Like it was real.
Oh,
It was
wow.
like a real deal. It had subtitles.
Nice.
Like they had a screen with subtitles because I had no idea what they were saying. But
I mean, the only
I
way
felt-
I know about operas myself is through Fan of the Opera and of course the Ghostbusters
Super
animated
dapper.
TV episode.
I saw Phantom of
Right
the
at
Opera
the
on
opera.
Broadway
I did too. It was
when
good
I was a
stuff.
kid. When they fire the gun, it scared the living shit out of me.
It wasn't the chandelier that fell.
I thought that was super cool.
Would you guys say that this episode is vaguely familiar to another episode that Jacob was not on the week before he started? A certain Earl Grey tea episode that ended up having to be coffee.
No, I kind of. I
That's
don't
right.
necessarily. I would put these two be Judgment Night that he's talking
Oh
about.
no. Well, man, Judgment Night was so fucking all over the place. Maybe that's what Judgment Night was going for. But Judgment Night, I remember
It has the same structure of like,
Yeah.
guy on a ship and has no idea what's going
Kinda.
on. And it's the same thing with these guys. They land on this planet and they see a bright shiny light, so they figure, oh, it's probably gold, El Dorado or some shit. And
But
they go
wasn't in
down there
Judgment
and-
Night like he was a different person and he may have been dead, but he was like a totally different
No,
person
he's a guy
now?
that's living in his own hell, like his
Yeah, I
own
mean
personal hell.
essentially
Yeah.
But the whole thing in the end where he's actually dead, I guess that was that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, spoilers for this episode. Yeah, things.
I didn't
may
say this
not be
episode. I
alive.
was talking about Judgment Night. That's what happened in Judgment Night. I think Judgment Night sucked.
Well, yeah, it sucks, but I'm just saying, like, it's very similar to like what this episode is trying to do.
Not
or
necessarily
what
in
this
the
episode
end.
does. Well, no, not necessarily. One guy is may or may not be crazy, may not be Jack Klugman.
Does anybody watch these episodes of ours, by the way, who hasn't watched the episode we're talking about? That'd be kind of a wild
I mean,
experience.
Isn't YouTube full of like young people now? So I mean, I guarantee you none of them have ever seen a 60-year-old TV show.
Well,
Yeah.
sure
Is it
they
like
have.
cool to, like,
podcast
There's
Twilight
actually there's
about it?
Well, my I've had nephews that like grew up on Gilligan's Island and the like. So I think it's a person by person thing.
Yeah.
Hey, all I can say
ageist.
is, okay, so it opens up with these three characters who are Captain Ross, Lieutenant Mason, and Lieutenant Carter, and they're searching for a planet for their people, and they find a planet that may be habitable, and they have the most comfortable seats, guys, the most comfortable of seats.
They sure
that,
do. They look
yeah,
metal,
that-
but then they get in and they jiggle around. I was like, man, I want to lay in that. It's like some memory foam from hell.
Yeah, we were mentioning how it's like Homer Simpson's groove and his ass groove in his couch. It's like they got to find the right spot.
Man,
But
this
no, I
opening
mean,
narration is long.
yeah, it starts out with the opening. It starts out with an opening narration, and then eventually cuts to an opening narration. So it's like
It starts out with an
for the price
opening
of
narration
none.
and it goes into the middle of the episode.
right. But like I don't know. I mean, this episode starts out fine, I guess. I mean, what do you guys think? Like how the episode kind of starts out and how Jack Klugman is being Jack Klugman. He's being stressed out, captain of the boat, kind of like what he always is and everything he ever does. And I like Jack Klugman. I think he's a good actor, but it's just he's playing the same. He's playing Jack Klugman. He's playing Jack Klugman, stress out comedian actor guy.
I will tell you this, they pull some of the best, like throughout this, they pull some of the best faces. Like Jack Klugman pulls out funky face. Everybody pulls out funky faces, but
When they're trying to take off and land and stuff.
yeah, and when they're
Like
scared and stuff.
my feet are going into my brain.
Basically, yeah.
Uh,
No, the start of the episode is fine. I mean, it's about what you'd expect. Okay, guys on a ship, you're gonna have something that's a little bit more sci-fi fantasy based, and you take it from there.
I was down. As soon as it came on and showed that little flying saucer going, I was like, I'm cool. I'm here. I'm here for this.
I like the hook, like you get like the green screen hook that you see moving it around in like the top left corner of the you can tell it's on like a string or something.
No,
Good
honey,
old
you've not
60s
seen
television.
screens until you've seen Ed Wood.
I have seen Ed Wood. Is that we're talking about the Johnny Depp movie, right?
Yeah. No. I'm talking about Ed Wood, like Plan 9, the movie itself.
Roll around with the squid.
Plan 9. No,
Like
I've
that
not
thing,
seen Plan. I've never seen Plan 9.
well, we need to change that because you need to be introduced to the classics.
Like Glenn and Glenda.
Like classics like from like 2008. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Iron
like
Man.
Hottie and Naughty.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Isn't it
new
sad
guy.
that like we're at a point where Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is 25 years old, as well as
It's not 25 yet. Well, I guess it is. Yeah, 99.
or no, it's 20.
Anyway,
Is it 20? Yeah, 25, and The Matrix is 25 years
Yeah.
old.
Just
Triv's like fuck it.
Just stop around.
trying to keep your ass on track.
Stay on
Hey,
target.
hey, I tried to keep us I keep our ass on track
Yeah,
last week.
you're
and-
totally keeping us on track. Yeah.
What?
Moving
No, I'm
along
just saying
there,
we're old.
Goldilocks.
We're old. We're just
You're
not,
not
right.
old. Fuck off.
Anyways, so I mean, the overall gist of this episode is just like, what is this like the ship? But before we do that, Jacob, let's do the. I don't know if you want to do both parts of the narration or you want to do for one part and then one part later, or however you want to do it. However you feel.
We'll just do it. Okay. Here we go. I know it's long, but I haven't read it.
That's what she said.
Picture of the spaceship E89 cruising above the 13th planet of Star System 51. The year 1997. In a little while, supposedly, the ship will be landed. In a little while, supposedly, the ship will be landed and specimens taken. Vegetable, mineral, and if any, animal. These will be brought back to overpopulated Earth, where technicians will evaluate them. And if everything is satisfactory, stamp their findings with the word inhabitable. And open up yet another planet for colonization. These are the things that are supposed to happen. Picture of the crew of the spaceship E89. Captain Ross, Lieutenant Mason, Lieutenant Carter. 3 men who have just reached a place which is as far from home as they will ever be. 3 men who in a matter of minutes will be plugged into the darkest nightmare reaches of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, going for
So-
the sexy.
Yeah,
Ooh, yeah.
baby. So I gotta say that how this episode opens up. I gotta say how this episode opens up. When you finally get to the ending of the episode, the opening episode just feels more horrifying. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, because in context of how we know this episode plays out, I feel like it'd be like my worst nightmare. Like certain movies like Groundhog Day, I guess,
Mhm.
or like my worst nightmare. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Your worst nightmare is what? Repeating?
Reliving.
Reliving?
The same thing over and
Yeah.
over and over.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Some
I
things
guess
I would want to relive over and over and over. Sex.
relive or you want to relive the Picasso over and over and over.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Trib wants to relive
Absolutely.
the Picasso.
And you can
Yeah.
now.
That's okay. I really don't need to.
You too. Okay, guys.
This episode reminds me of so the Death Ship, as Paramount Plus calls it, they land on this planet, and The first, I don't know what you guys think, but the first thing I see is an asshole captain who seems like he's very forceful in his nature against these two guys who seem to be, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think about like Jack Klugman's character? Is like he just seems like a guy that is too committed to something and like doesn't want to listen to anybody.
I think he definitely comes across as one that with any kind of a mission like this, and you see it in a lot of sci-fi based media, but I think that they're like super strict. They're rigid. They're rigid about protocol and everything else because that's how they survive, I guess. So I mean, and it kind of see throughout the episode, his force of will is something beyond normal. But I think you look at any kind of sci-fi based thing that has that kind of captain, they all kind of follow that, and I would imagine it draws a lot from war, like any regiment, you're gonna have that kind of guy in charge, or relatively.
You gotta have that guy who, like, holds it together and tells the people what to do, even when shit's weird and what the fuck is this? Why are there dead bodies and all that? And they look like us. Get your shit together. We got a mission to do.
Right.
But on that same note, I think too the fact that he's not allowing himself to be open to what it is that's in front of them, like the veil kind of drops on what he allows himself to see. In regard, you do have to have the logistical or the logic to say, okay, here's what I'm seeing, here's what it could be, but I don't think he ever allows himself to go to the what would probably be one of the more logical conclusions.
Well, because if he accepts it, it makes it real. He
True.
doesn't want it to be that.
That is very true.
That's one thing in the ending kind of insinuated that I know we're bouncing around, but
That's what we do.
they kind of insinuated that they had already all thought or already talked about even that, hey, this could be the outcome. And they're just like, come on, we all know it. Just face it. This is what's going on. I'm like, I hadn't thought of that. I mean, obviously they are that, but I didn't know that they were that. And unless I missed it, that never really popped up as one of the ideas that they had or anything, right?
I don't think. Well, I mean, they said outrightly that
limbo
they said
or
that
whatever?
they said, oh well, this is a possible future. So basically, not to jump ahead, like you kind of talked about, but like they kind of said, well, they kind of take it as possible future. This is what happens. It's inevitable, kind of a thing, and they doesn't want to go down that road, but the sense of what it is hits the other two guys pretty quickly.
Well, that's the question. They when they land on the planet and they go out, of course, apparently they don't wear helmets because, I guess this is Earth-like atmosphere. But
They
then they
checked it
go into
before
the
they went out.
Did
He said
they?
it was breathable air. Yeah, he one of them said something about that. That it was a breathable atmosphere, and I think they specifically said we don't need helmets.
Yeah. I think too the suits were probably more for the cold, because they even talked about, sun is setting, it's already -13 or whatever. So there might be some variation on that too.
Yeah, and they was talking Celsius too, so we need Dan here to understand that. Say we know it's cold.
Yes.
No, I gotta admit, like, there is a charm to like the costuming in space in 1960. We've talked about this before, but is that why you like these episodes? Because of like how quaint the space faring like suits feel and stuff like that?
I think what sci-fi in general, sci-fi of this time especially, I like because it was before they knew it was common knowledge, before so much knowledge was common knowledge.
Right.
Because we hadn't been to the moon or anything, there yet, and it wasn't. Space was still like this wondrous thing. We all knew it was there, or they all knew it was there, but nobody had been there really. I mean, I think somebody had, but the way we are now, we did not understand it. The average person in 1963, I don't think understood what all space was as much as the average person nowadays. Like they probably didn't know if you went up there, you would like, vacuum in space and all that, and like essentially burn to death through the cold, and, or like all the like your lungs would explode and all that. They didn't know these things. So it's kind of like this whole, whenever you see sci-fi back then, and Twilight Zone does it too, where they're just like walking around nearly willy-nilly. It's not even just like, oh, you can breathe it. Yeah, but what's in that air? I mean, are there bacteria there that'll fucking kill you? I mean, you don't know. We would never do that nowadays, even if you could breathe it.
Yeah.
But all those things of just kind of like the thinking that everything else around the cosmos is just like here. And it's kind of just this, and they don't really put a lot of thought into all that because they didn't know they had to. So they just kind of go and have a good time with it. And some of the things that they can get away with, or in a movie nowadays, we'd be like, that doesn't work. And we would know that the people that made the movie know that doesn't work. But back
Yeah.
then we accept that, well, they didn't know. So we just roll with it. So
Yeah.
it allows you to have like a lot more fun with everything that's going on. And not everything was, explained and all that, like how the ship works. You didn't have to look at it and understand how it works. Nowadays, I feel like if there's a spaceship on screen, you have to look at it and be like, yeah, that would at least have a basic idea of how it would function or something. It was just a much more carefree time.
Yeah.
And you could just have fun
Yeah.
with the story and throw whatever you want in there. And there's a few stories that in movies, especially like that are throwback movies now, not like to a corny degree, but they kind of sort of go with those a little bit more modernized, but they go with those sensibilities here or there, and those movies are really fun too. I really like those. But
Well,
yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm a huge fan of I'm a huge fan of the proponent of like futurism. So like
Yeah.
the 50s and 60s view of the future was always
like those
something that
chairs.
kind of
Mhm.
yeah, the chairs.
What
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fuck were those going to do? I mean, but we roll with it. I love that shit.
Yeah.
It make that. What is that? I don't
It's like
know,
the
but it's
gloves in
awesome.
the fucking front of
Yep.
their spacesuits. Like when you wear those, like what's happening?
Yeah,
But
all that
yeah.
stuff. That stuff's great. I mean, it doesn't make sense to us, but people weren't thinking of that back then. They were just like,
No.
"Oh, look, that's weird and spacey."
Well, it's like that episode. Was it Third from the Sun with Rodney McDowell?
That was all
Roddy
people were
No,
McDowell.
like all over.
when he
Um,
goes to Mars and
no, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm thinking the wrong one. The one where
the
they're
zoo.
like the
Yeah, as
no,
people were
no,
like all over.
Third from
no,
the Sun is when
right, but I'm thinking Third from the Sun was the one where they're on the planet and they escape and like they're coming to Earth.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
you don't
yeah.
find that out until
Um,
the very, very end.
Right. So that one, like you see, like everything looks vaguely like the way that we know it, but it's a little bit off kilter. Even the work that went into that to kind of do what would be something very alien, but still be kind of something that you would know. Like they got
Not
phones from Sweden and
Yeah, not
like
alien enough to where we would think this isn't Earth.
right,
It was earthly enough to where we would say, okay, this is Earth. They just got some fancy shit I ain't got.
right. But it's that
Cobra
because a
phone.
lot of sci-fi from that era, especially the color stuff, everything was silver and everything was super streamlined and it had all that kind of shit going and
And
like
clean.
yeah, oh, hugely so.
Everything. Star Wars was actually one of the first ones where it wasn't clean.
Yeah, exactly. That and Nice
Yeah, I
Pirates.
mean, hell,
That was after
even
Star Wars.
fucking it. Yeah, right. Like, because you like at this time, not this specific year, but this time is when stuff like 2001 and
1997.
of course, yeah, 1997. But like 2000, the year like the movies 2001 and what's the one with maybe that was the 70s. Oh yeah, I guess that was the 70s. The one you were talking about a couple weeks ago.
Logan's Run?
Logan's Run. Was that the
Mhm.
60s or
No,
70s?
70s. That was right before Star
Okay.
Wars.
What is it with like everybody's view that space and like spacefaring would be like super clean and effective, and all of a sudden like George Lucas is like, nope, we're going dirty and grungy.
Logan's
and-
Run was post-apocalyptic. No
Yeah.
space.
Was it?
Yeah.
I've honestly never seen it.
It's
I
on
know
Earth.
that's
It's
surprising.
just post-apocalyptic Earth in a bubble. They live in a bubble. But yeah, it was that whole clean thing. I know sci-fi was clean. If it
Yeah.
was in the future, like dirt has been eradicated.
I would imagine too that you think about like outer space, you're not surrounded by a lot of natural elements that would cause dirt and dust and all that kind of stuff. So, and you think like a sterilized environment.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's probably the base concept of that, or like, you go through like contamination or decontamination, like when you're talking nuclear stuff and whatnot. So that's probably where a lot of that came
It,
from.
it was funny you mentioned the gloves because that was something I noticed. I noticed that as a neat detail because that is something I don't know who, but I've seen that before in not sci-fi, but in like actual real world. It may not have been modern, it may have been from this time, but I have seen like pilots or someone in that operated something that had gloves. Not, I don't think that was the official place they went right there on their chest, but where they would kind of like that. So I noticed those gloves on their chest too, and I was like, hey, I feel like somebody was like, hey, put your gloves here because that's how such and such is do it or something. I don't know.
Well, I think I've seen that with like if you're talking like English, it may not have been English, but like horse riders, you'll oftentimes like they've got like the fancy riding suits, and sometimes they'll have the glove like their riding gloves like in their
Maybe that's, I don't
in their
know.
pants or whatever.
I
So
feel like it was a pilot or something. I don't know, but I've seen
possibly.
that somewhere. But yeah, you're right. I've seen that too, with the people that rode around like on the fancy horses and stuff, play polo and all that. They do that whole thing because they had different gloves for everything they did.
Yeah. I did want to add, and this is, I apologize. Now I'm tangenting. You guys are going to have to forgive me. But
No,
my
that's fine.
favorite kind of like take on that kind of like space thing was Abbott and Costello. I can't remember which one it was, but they think they go to outer space and they end up like in like German Fest or something, and they're walking around with these helmets on, and they've got like this big kind of like telephoto lens thing that kind of like it's clear plastic, but it kind of comes out the front, and then there's nothing on the front of their faces, so it kind of opens up within this kind of flowery funnel thing, and it is the most goofy thing. It's got antlers, or not antlers, antenna. It's so goofy, but that's always what I go to. And they have like the crazy shiny boots like they had in this episode.
Yeah, it's it just it makes me laugh like the shiny boot. It just feels like they have costumes that are part of the Forbidden Planet wardrobe,
Well,
which
another
makes me
thing that's
laugh.
really neat about sci-fi of this era is that we live in the future. So like we can look at this now. It's quaint to look back and be like, this is what they thought. This at least they had an idea. This is an approximation of how they thought it would be, or something along these lines. I mean, I know this is fantasy and all, but that somebody thought when they're making it, they were like, in the future it might be something like this, and this is the type of aesthetic that they thought it would be.
Yeah.
They were wrong, but I've always thought that was really interesting and really neat, and I've really liked that kind of like retro sci-fi look. I do wonder if like what we think is sci-fi now, like what's a recent sci-fi movie? I don't know, but
You'd go like Blade Runner 2049 or something.
yeah, is that well, that 2049 is kind of like stylized after the original Blade Runner, but
Yeah. Yeah.
just some side how we've envisioned the future now, like in 60 years, is somebody else going to watch our media and be like, look, that's so quaint. It's so cute
Right.
what they thought.
Well, we even do that to the
I
80s, you know?
Oh, for sure.
I still think that as the decades moved along, and especially seeing after this episode, I think the realization of what society is going to look like, it has the gap has actually like lowered a little bit, so we actually have a little more understanding. We're not predicting families and above the skies and stuff like that. It's all going to be you
Yeah,
know
I
I think
agree.
we've gotten a little bit better.
I
Just
don't know if it's
not
better
maybe
though.
to the
I feel like it's stifled creativity. I do agree with you. I think that
yeah.
our society, our just everyday Joe, has become more knowledgeable about just stuff, things, technology, all that kind of stuff. We are more knowledgeable, so it's not as easy to fool us as it would have been back then. 'Cause I'm sure there were, rocket scientists and stuff that looked at this and they were like, that's nothing. Like they were like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? But your average people looked at it and they're like, oh wow, it's amazing. And I feel like nowadays we are all so in the know, or we at least have this portal in our hands that can tell us if something is even remotely possible, that it just makes every bit of media we make now, like this type of creativity just isn't there. Because if you put something out there that might be a little bit out there, might be a little wonky, people are going to start calling you on it and talking shit about it. So it like takes away from that quaintness. And I don't know if we're going to have that. Everything's real.
Everything
It's
is
too real.
discovered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. Yes, I mean
Well,
it is, but
generally, yeah.
the knowledge base is just there's so much, but to the point to where it's like it's not allowing us to be creative and look up and just dream and say, I'm going to dream big, and maybe this isn't exactly how it is. And these sci-fi shows and all look at the crazy sci-fi things they had back then, and what they did. And I mean, they had like Santa Claus going to Mars and shit. I mean,
Yep. I love that show or the movie.
I mean, but but that worked back then. You could
Thunderbirds.
never get that nowadays in a even. I know that wasn't serious, but even in a halfway, it would have to be like it'd be like lampooning something. It would be calling back to something back then. We can't have something that just crazy out there imaginative because somebody would just be like, it wouldn't work that way. That's not how this worked because I know this.
Well,
We
here's a
got too much
question.
knowledge.
Here's a question for you. And actually, I've got two things. First one would be like, so we look at this as people that are kind of like, we've seen all the movies and stuff. If your average individual went into new Star Wars movie or, whatever sci-fi movie of the week, do you think that they would see it the same way, like your average individual? So I'm not talking about like Neil, what's his name? Neil
Blumkamp?
No, Tyson,
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, like so he looks at Interstellar and says, "Oh, well, this isn't right and that's not right." But your average individual that goes to that, and because I remember watching Gravity and thinking, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" Like,
Yeah, no, I think the average person looks at those things, but that's what I'm saying is those things are so technically advanced and
That's true.
so realistic. Realism is like taking over creativity, like not creativity, but imagination. Because
Yeah.
some of this shit that they were showing here, you can't even convince me that in 1963 they thought some of this stuff had to have been like, I know this isn't how it's going to be, but you know what? It's fun,
Yeah.
and we can't just do fun now. I mean, they couldn't just do something
Well,
fun.
the main issue is like I think the space wasn't the space race going on at this time, like between the Russians and
Yeah.
Americans. Weren't we
Yeah.
getting close
Absolutely.
to?
69
So
is when
I
we hit the
think
moon, but we went into space, I think, officially.
I think Sputnik was 59. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
but I mean,
sure.
like human beings, like getting a human. I know that the space race was like, who's going to get the first satellite up there? Then
Yeah.
who's going to get the first person up there? Who's going to
Well,
get the first person in orbit?
Kennedy, I think it was 62. Kennedy talked about the speech about going to space,
Yeah,
or maybe it was
and
63. But
and then it was okay. Who's going to the moon? And then they got to the moon, and then they were like, all right, you win. Everything else is too far away.
yeah, I think it wasn't until like we started like actually sending men to the moon that these kind of episodes kind of fell apart because you think about it, we're still we have guys on a ship, we have no understanding of, like I said, space, and we have no understanding of like how vacuum and sealing a ship works, and it's just they're still in that forbidden planet, day of the earth is still type feel with the way the ships are designed. I mean,
Yeah,
if this episode were to take place in 1975, is filmed in 1975, it would look like the Gemini rocket or something like that. It would be much different, and I like that. I guess I don't have a problem with these types of episodes just for the simple fact that there's a fantastical feel to it. This
yeah.
is a ship with like buttons that they're just pressing out of the blue, and it's fun, it's entertaining. Now this episode is dark because they walk into the ship that they find crash land that looks very much like their own ship, and they have to take two men to open a door. Apparently this door is like sealed vacuum shut, and this is going off a little tangent as
I
well.
mean, it is a spaceship.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I would hope they got some
uh,
type of like safety precautions on that thing.
right.
well,
I
and
was
it
just
could have
thinking of
been
like. Oh no,
good.
I was just thinking of like I was watching Star Trek Generations, and when Data puts his hand up to the door and says "Open Sesame," I was just waiting for them to do something like that. They're like, "Open Sesame," and the door opens. But what were you saying, Triv?
Oh, I was just gonna say that since the ship had crashed, it could have been too that everything got jammed and jarred and stuff too, kind of bent out of
Sure.
shape. I did have a thought, and I apologize, this
Yeah.
is kind of going back
You
just
had
a
a
second,
thought?
but surprising. But do you think like you talk about, because there was just somebody that went to the moon here not that long ago. You've got even like the aliens thing, people are like, oh my God, the government said aliens exist, and everybody was kind of like, that we're so like the desensitized to like the real things that are going on, like all of the amazing pictures that are pulled down by Hubble, like it's become routine, even though it's not us living it.
Well, I just like how we have a picture of that whatever machine landing on the moon, and people were like, "Oh, look at the technology back then. I guess it wasn't filmed by Stanley Kubrick this time." And it's like, I don't know.
Don't get me started on like alien life and stuff like that. Um, people, I know we're ranting for a moment, but people talk about, do aliens exist? Do they not? The government says they do. The government says they don't. Yes, they have found alien life, and it's out there. It's just not what you think.
Right.
They haven't found bipedal like big head gray men. Well, not that they told us about. I don't really know, but they found water that had bacteria in it. That's a living organism on another fucking planet. That's life.
Yep.
Aliens. So yeah, they have found life on other planets, but that's just not the life that we want. We want
No.
civilization.
I do think too that you talk about the creativity aspect. I do think like the conspiracies that people come up with for a lot of that stuff, I think that's where the creativity comes in because it can't be like that real life thing. So it's like, oh, well, clearly it's over here doing this thing. Like you talk about the, it's life, but it's not the life the way we think that it was or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I was watching something. I don't even remember what. And this has been more than one thing. Some spacefaring thing or faring thing not too long ago. And somebody went out. I think they understood that there was no air in space at the time this came out because they had to hold their breath. But they just like had to get from like one door to another and there's space in between on like a station or a ship. I don't know what it was, but they like went out into space with no suit and it was like it took off and got there like they were underwater.
Oh, it's like Princess Leia in the one Star
Yeah,
Wars.
but like they were holding their breath underwater. Like that's the only issue that there would be. And the movie just kept on going with it. And it was like, he had this tense moment. Couldn't he hold his breath long enough? And he made it in. Obviously, that's not how it worked. Yeah, but your fucking lungs would explode and you you would die almost instantaneously, a horrible death. But
I
you
mean,
know what?
clearly
I
you haven't
love
seen
that.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yeah, but I mean,
Crazy.
I loved that was, the movie was able to continue on with its story, even though this thing right here, and this movie wasn't like that old. That's what caught me as I was like, I'm pretty sure by that point everybody knew that wouldn't work, but whatever. And the movie kept going, and I was like, that work, it works, it works. We don't get that nowadays. That would get torn apart nowadays. I say that Nick makes a good point. In Guardians of the Galaxy, I think they had some like force fields or something, but didn't they do that? Somebody like went out.
No,
And
Yeah,
he
with,
remember he just jumped. Yeah, Chris Pratt just jumps out and he freezes. 'Cause
yeah,
he's,
like slow. I don't know. Well, I mean, it's
no,
a
but
whatever.
yeah, no. But that goes back to this episode. It's like, yes, it looks goofy. Yes, like the chairs are like they have their own fucking groove in it. Yes, they go out and they see this like flying saucer spaceship and they go in and this is when I was like, oh, this must be like Moon or something like that. When they walk into the ship and they see themselves on the ground dead and it's just like that kind of stuff, it's crazy, it's weird, it's goofy, but there's a charm to not a
Yes,
charm to the fact they're dead, but there's a charm to like the button pressing and like the noises and stuff
noises
like
in
that
space.
Yeah.
yeah,
Also,
I
yeah,
mean,
and
yeah.
there is a seriousness to it. Also, like the reason that they're there. Yeah, you got this goofy ship and like none of this just works the way we know that it would now. But they're out there because hey, Earth's overpopulated. We need to find somewhere else to offload some of these people, so they're going around their location scouting. That's something that we'll probably one day have to do something like that, be it drones or probes or something. They're probably already doing it to a degree. At some point in time, we will outgrow this planet and people will have to look somewhere.
Let's
And
say, haven't we done that already?
I
Are
was
we
gonna say,
like
well, I'm
close out?
sure that it's already been done, but I don't know if it's been. This makes it seem as if this is an age-old sci-fi thing to ship out there looking for
Yeah.
a habitable planet. But I'm I'm sure we're looking, but I don't think like to this degree to where it's like, oh, Earth is dying and we have to find a place. We have the clock is ticking kind of situation, which is what I gathered from this. It's similar to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about like? I mean, what was your initial thoughts when they find themselves? I mean, like it also reminds me of that movie. What's the one with the kid from he was in The Road and he was in he got nominated for Power of the Dog. What's his name? I think he's Australian. I think it was What's the name of that? Cody
I know the
McPhee.
kid,
Cody
but
McPhee. It was a movie about he goes into the future and he sees like a dead version of him. You remember this movie? Cody, let me look it up.
Project Adam.
It's no, not Project.
Flight of the
Have you ever seen
Navigator.
2067?
Nope.
Yeah. Oh, is that the movie? Was
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
kid from the
yeah.
road?
Yeah, that's the kid from the dog.
Yes,
Oh.
I saw that. I thought you were talking about like a good movie. Yeah, I saw that movie.
That's what I was thinking of, like, because that
I
also
reviewed
deals with
that.
like, I know I did too. That's I still get comments to the day for this day for that movie for some weird reason. But you know what I'm talking about? Like, it has the same. They're looking for resources and they're looking for another planet and stuff like that. It's the same type of thing. Like, this story is not what I would call unique in this day and age, but maybe back then with Richard Matheson writing, and he like I said, once again, Richard Matheson was always about, like, human emotion, human, like
I
the
think that
idea
that
of
was
what
a
human
thing back
being
then
is.
of them thinking that we were gonna. I think that that was more of a people already thought of that. It's like, hey, what happens if we grow so much? Because this is after when cities and mega cities and stuff like that were really popping up, and I think that people were already looking to the future, saying that hey, eventually we will. There's only a finite amount of Earth, so we're gonna run out of space. What do we do? Well, there's a lot of other planets out there. I think that had already come up that going out and surveying places. I don't think we were doing it,
Right.
especially with the space race going on. Everything was space, space, space all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
Whether it was common, like this is a very, uh, I hesitate to use the term played out reason for this mission. Like pretty much every sci-fi, deep space sci-fi movie that happens now, the reason they're out there is something along these lines. They're either taking people to because Earth is overpopulated or dying, or they're looking for a place to take people to do. I like pretty much everything where they're going deep space is that now.
Or it's Event
well,
Horizon.
yeah, exactly. What I like about this and what Pace Magazine actually says about it, which actually makes a lot of sense, is this episode starts out as one thing, like a very traditional, looking for blah 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 blah, and they start thinking about, maybe is there a time flux thing going on? Is there a time travel thing? And then it does like a really interesting 180 that actually makes it quite unique. That you don't start to realize what's happening till, like I said, you get to like almost near the end of the episode. And I think that's what sets this episode apart from being just a very traditional by the book, type of episode. Like I said, we've seen, this thing where they're looking for a planet, they're looking for something in the Twilight Zone series, look at like the little people and stuff like that. It starts out very kind of ununique and becomes quite interesting by the time it gets over. And I
I
mean,
thought
what do
one
you
of
guys, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the most unique things, interesting things was one of their big ideas is that it's an alien and somehow like telepathically he's making us see this stuff and all this and that. That was one of the interesting. I was like, okay, maybe. I never bought that though because of the way that it was
No, because
played.
Right.
yeah,
I
Jack
think I
Klugman does
wish,
a really nice
yeah,
job of.
but I mean, nothing against him. It's the way that it played out. I just knew, okay, just tropes of storytelling and TV shows and all that, and just sci-fi. That's not what it is. But I wish they had played into that some more. So maybe I would have questioned as to whether it was that or something like that. They just kind of came down and, oh no, it's not that because there's the ship. I wish they had played with that a little bit more. But once again,
Well,
they only had 15 minutes, so.
well, no, let me ask you this question then. Do you think if they kind of revealed their cards a little bit earlier, do you think that would make the episode work better, or do you think that they held them too long? Like, what do you think?
No, I think everything was just right. As far as like, letting out the stuff. I mean, they're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on here. I will say that this is one episode and Twilight Zone in general, I typically go in looking like, okay, what's going on? Here's the players. There's our problem. What's going on? And then I'm like looking around the whole time, trying to figure it out. And I do love those episodes where I can't figure it out. And I have said that this season has presented more of a good feeling about that I've had since season one. This one, for whatever reason, I never wondered. I never, like you guys were a minute ago saying, what did you think when was going on when you found the bodies? I didn't know. And I didn't think about it. I don't know why. I was just watching. I was like blank slate for some reason. I
That's
wasn't
okay.
trying to figure out what was going on. And I'm always trying to figure out what's going on. But this one, I was just along for the ride. And I don't know if it's just like the way that they played it out, it kind of like disarmed me or something. But I was just so like you asked, what did you think was going on when they found the bodies? I was like, I don't know. Dead bodies. I
Twins.
didn't have a thought because I was thinking about it when you said that. I was like, what did I think? I was just rolling along with it. Maybe my brain was fried for the day. Had a lot going on this week, so maybe I'm just like, I'm just gonna roll with this and see where it goes. And I was happy with that. I mean, it was had a good time.
Yeah,
Good
no,
time.
it's what about, I mean, Triv, do you have you haven't
I mean,
said much, so
nothing, no, nothing on specifically on this. Like I said earlier, I kind of went back and forth between as we were, kind of watching. It was kind of a back and forth of, oh, is it this? Is it that? Is it the other thing? Oh, they did this. As we were kind of conversating about it. So it was like our back and forth kind of kept me kind of going on different paths and stuff. But
Mhm.
no, as far as the pacing, when I think it worked really well, the way that it played, I didn't have any issues with it per se. I don't think you don't want to play like you want to put those, throw those little bits out there to be like, let the audience members nibble on possibilities, but you don't
Yeah.
want them to dig into them too much because then you bring it back and they're like, but this came out of nowhere where it really didn't. So,
Mhm.
yeah, because it's interesting because even when they start having the hallucinations, or maybe they're hallucinations, you're not entirely sure. I like that it's still not giving you the full detail of what's happening. Like, why are these guys all of a sudden like, why, the one guy, I can't remember which one it is, really is the antithesis of what is happening, because he starts like really losing it once he sees his own self. He's like, why am I seeing myself? What is going on? And Jack Klugman's, captain character is like, you need to shut the fuck up and, get your shit together. And he imagines himself back at his home, and like, he sees like the death shroud and the note and stuff like that. And it just, I mean, I find that interesting because I was like, okay, so okay, are they on this trip because they're trying to deal with the fact that family members are dead, and this is really just like a cathartic mission? It's not really them looking for anything,
I like
and
that
it makes,
mhm.
yeah,
because I
it's just
thought
like,
when he
yeah,
when he uh when they had their little flashback or wherever they went and saw their family and they were back home and all that. I obviously knew. I think nobody was fooled. We all knew. Okay, something's going on here. They're not really back. And then when they came back and he pulled them back in, he was seeing things, and the captain showed up at that one part and pulled him out. I thought it was really neat because I thought they were just kind of experiencing, their, you know, what they wanted. I want to go home, and this is what's at home. Just like their mental projection of what home is and their family and stuff like that. But then when he like busted out and he's like, no, it wasn't that. Your family's dead.
yeah.
He's like, they died in a car accident. I was like, oh, which that right there, honestly, was probably the first giveaway should have been, and maybe on a regular day I would have picked up on it, the giveaway that their ultimate fate. If you start to think
Well,
about it, I guess.
Yeah. I
well,
kind of
that's
thought
the
about
funny
that.
thing.
Oh, sorry. Go.
No, no, all I was gonna say is the funny part is, like, if that were the final reveal, that would be, very Twilight Zone-y, but they actually go one step further on what
The
exactly is
alien thing.
happening. Yeah, and it's much more interesting than it,
Yeah, and I like
would
how
have
they
played out.
didn't just roll with the fact that that they weren't there when they
Yeah.
were there or wherever they went. They physically left, like they were gone. Because the guy even said, because he's like, "You were right here the whole time." He was like, "No, it wasn't. He was gone." And like a lot of the times they would just say that, or he'd be like, "But he was gone." He's like, "Ah, no, he wasn't. He was in the bathroom or something." It just would downplay it and move on to the next thing. He didn't. He like actually touched on it, and you just saw. And I think that actually plays. Now that I think about it, that plays more into what we find out about Klugman's character in the end, about he just won't accept shit.
I
He's
would
like, no, this is not the mission, and I will not accept that. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit into my worldview, and we're not going there. He's like, but he wasn't there. He was physically gone. He was there. We just couldn't see him. What the fuck does that mean? Aliens.
It's always aliens.
Telepathic aliens. They made it where we couldn't see him. Which does, I do, now that I say that, I do have one, and maybe you guys can answer it. The last guy with the dead family, he went in there and pulled him out. If they couldn't see him and they didn't know where he was, how did he know? How did he show up there? How did he know where to find
I
it and
think
how to
he
grab
just,
him?
I think he was like yelling at guy's name is Mason,
Willed
but I
that
think he was
shit.
yelling at him, and it's funny. Yeah, I think he like was just in his mental projection just there, but he was like, this guy was like doing the Blair Witch Project nonsense where he's just up against the wall, just staring at the wall.
I thought of that, but the
Maybe.
thing is, they did say that they were gone.
See, I would
Like
assume
they were
force of
physically gone.
will.
Oh, they were both
I
gone.
would
I missed that.
Well,
I
no, I
would
mean, like
assume
whenever they went to these whatever they were on Earth, like their bodies, their corporeal bodies were not in that ship anymore. Like he disappeared. So I'm like, okay. So when the captain went to get him, how did the captain A get in there to get him? B, even if it was kind of like, oh, he's in this spot. I can't see him, but he's there, and I grabbed him. How did he know that? How did he know to talk to him? Maybe it was like you said, just like saying, I know you're in here. Corporal, get your ass in gear.
See, I would say that it's force of like the captain has exerts such a force of will over the two crew that even like so to our knowledge they're solid beings. But
Yeah.
in theory, because they're reliving this thing over and over, they really aren't. They're more spirit than anything. Like,
He's
you
like
know, they're kind
Freddy
of
Krueger.
trapped.
He can go into their dreams.
Right, exactly. So
Right.
he has
Because
that like you know you talk about hauntings and stuff like they say, oh well, there's this one really strong spirit that keeps the rest of them in check. That's kind of the way that I took it. Was it was him, well, after everything was said and done, like that force of will that he possesses to not
well,
let things
because
change. He pulls them back.
Well, it did say he won't
right.
allow them to.
Right.
They
I
all
just assumed
see
Yeah,
it
because
it,
was
I
that.
but he won't even
yeah,
allow
because I was asking you this question. I'm like, why isn't there a mutiny going on? Like, why? By the end of the episode, you understand why there's no mutiny, why the things are happening. But it's just like during the episode, I'm like, why are these two guys listening to this asshole who
Well, there is at
basically
one
is?
point. He's a gun pulled on him by that one guy.
Well, yeah, but it lasts like 2 seconds
Yeah,
though.
it
But
does,
it's just
doesn't
like,
it? He's like,
yeah,
no,
he's
we're
like
not doing that.
Mason.
Yes, we are. All right.
Um, but
I
yeah,
did have a
it's yeah. Go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say you were talking about how when the newspaper got pulled up and you see that the guy's wife and daughter are dead. The one thing that started me on the path of okay, this isn't quite what it seems was when you had like all of the stuff from the other guy's wife. Like you had like the gloves and the letter that says, you know, your husband died, but she's not there. So clearly she's either dead or she's alive whenever she's the opposite of what everybody else is.
Yeah, because he's when he goes into that visionary world or whatever he goes into, and like everything it feels like very heightened, very like dreamlike with the kid coming out of the grass and he has like a fishing pole and there's smoke and like his wife has this like perfect setup of the picnic table and the food and all of a sudden he's like this feels like the perfect it's like the perfect depending on what your perfect scenario is it feels like this guy's perfect scenario of like everything feels like it doesn't and
Heaven.
then of course heaven in a lot of respects and he gets pulled out of that reality and it's like it almost feels like
Purgatory.
as you guys have mentioned that they're trying to go into that next level of
Going to the light,
whatever
Carolyn.
yeah right. they're
He keeps
Dutch
pulling him
angling
out of the
it
light because he's stuck in purgatory, and he won't
yeah
let him. He won't let him go, so they're stuck there too. He's
well
such a force
actually
of nature in life and even after.
right. Let's talk about that, kind of the ending of this episode. It's they decide they're going to listen to the captain and they're going to exit Earth or exit this atmosphere. And of course they have the amazing kind of faces and stuff like that as they're being like pulled by G-force and the spinning dial and shit, which I thought was pretty funny. But they get up there and they're like, "Okay, we're clear. We can go home." Which I'm assuming is go home to the final resting place of heaven or whatever you believe in. He's like, nope, we're gonna go back down. And then, like they're like starting to crash land into the planet, and they finally like make it. I thought that was gonna be like that's where my wheel spinning of like this is a Groundhog Day scenario came in
What do you
because
think?
he's
Do you
like,
think that's
no,
when they crashed, or they crashed when they first landed?
no, they basically it's the gunslinger. It's the gunslinger thing where they end up like they've already done it, but now they're just repeating it over and over because their captain is like, "Oh, we're just gonna repeat it." Like, dude, we're dead. We want to go visit. We want to go with our families who are all dead. I'm assuming the wife of the one guy is passed on. Like, this is like the end of Lost or some shit. And the captain's like, "No, we're gonna figure out what's really going on." Like, dude, we just want to fucking go. What the fuck with our family or some shit? It's over, and they get forced to repeat it because of some dude's fucking animosity towards
Well, they did
accepting
mention
fate.
he's the one out of the three that does not have anybody else.
Yeah.
He's just him. So maybe he doesn't have anything to go back to.
Yeah,
So
this is
he's
all he
like,
has.
yeah,
It's kind
exactly.
of
Well,
Day of the Dead. You
this
don't
is
have the
his
connections.
world.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is him. So he's got what he is, what his world is, but they
Yeah.
don't. And he's keeping him from it. That sucks. That's depressing.
Well, that's what makes this episode. Well, I was gonna say that's what makes this episode so much more unique is like that adding that little bit of touch and adding the fact that they reset Groundhog Day style the beginning of the episode, so you see like the whole thing over and over and over again when Rod Serling comes in the mix, really sets this episode apart because they could have just ended it with, "Dude, we're dead. That's it. We're over. We're dead. We've died. The things we saw, we accepted who we are." But they add that little nice touch in there, which makes this episode elevate to a top 20 episode for me. Just on that alone, like they could have, they could have done anything. They could have had this be like an alien planet. And I'm like, I've seen this before, but I don't think the Twilight Zone has done something. I mean, I guess you could say Judgment Night has done something similar with like the repeat of he's repeating his whole,
Stop bringing that
you know,
terrible episode up.
I'm trying not to, but I got to bring up the episode before you came on, Jacob. I got to remind you of that every time I talk to you. No, I'm kidding. But no, honestly, it's like they've done this, but I don't think they've done this as successfully as they did it here. And it
Oh.
was just surprising. Like it really caught me off guard when the final reveal happened. I'm like,
A lot of Twilight Zone episodes, it would end with them sitting there like they realize it's like, we're dead. And he's like, dun. And then it would like slowly pan out as they're just like, and then we get, the closing narration of, yes, they're dead. And
a portrait of
Portrait-
three men.
portrait of three men.
They are
Three
dead
dead
in the
men
Twilight Zone.
who thought they were alive and don't know. But instead it like gives you that little extra of like showing them go back and forth. And like it shows the beginning again where the guy comes out all like enthusiastic, like, what'd we get? What'd you find? And all this. And they're just going to repeat in limbo, purgatory, the same thing over and over and over again. And that's like, oh, it's kind of deep. It does that classic Twilight Zone. We're going to give you an ending. We're going to give you a non-ending ending. An ending that doesn't really, we're going to answer the questions for you, but we're not going to give these characters an end.
Right.
Well, that's what I love about, once again, just kind of like tangent. That's what I love about the dark. People hate the dark end of the Dark Tower. I think we talked about this before, Jacob, maybe Trev. I think we talked about it. I love that ending because it just shows like, when you're in your own personal hell, until you realize you're in this place, you'll just keep repeating it over and over and over.
The ending is the beginning.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like that's why like Groundhog Day, I'm like, you son of a bitch, just keep repeating it. Just end. Don't give him a happy ending because he's a dick. But I don't know. I guess I really like these types of endings where it's just like,
Ambiguous.
hey,
Well, not
yeah,
ambiguous.
ambiguous,
This
no
isn't
happy. There's no happiness to it. It's just they repeat it until he feels like he can accept it, which he'll never do. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think they accomplished it.
thought it was a good ending. Quite honestly, the more as we sat here and talked about it, the more I like the ending. The ending, not how it ended, or I mean, not the actual ending itself, but how it was kind of like I mentioned in the beginning, I thought it was a bit abrupt. The more we talk about it, the less abrupt. It was still pseudo abrupt, but there were things alluding to it as it went along. So maybe it wasn't quite as abrupt as I initially thought. It could have been, like I said, I was on fucking autopilot while I was watching it, apparently, and not really thinking anything. So I like the ending more and more as I go along with this one.
Yay, we won him over.
Well, no,
Woo!
I already liked the episode. I was
I
already
know,
going
I
to say that I
kid.
think it was
I
a
kid.
great episode, but now I like it even more.
Woohoo!
Season 4 continues to amaze. I'm going to
Watch.
go out
Yeah.
and say it. We're only 6 episodes in, but I mean, seriously, there's 18 this season, right?
17.
17?
Or is
no,
it
it was
18?
18.
18?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think it was 18.
Say
No, you're good.
Okay. So we're not that far from the halfway mark.
Well, we're
I
a
mean,
third of the way with
we're
this
a third
one.
of the way through, yeah. A third of the way through the season. I like this season more than season 3, for sure. 1, no. 2 it's been a while. It's debatable. So far, this season, it could all go downhill next week. Probably will. But I'm liking this. I'm digging this season more than last season. I didn't care for last season as a whole.
Yeah, I
know
mean,
that's not what we're
it
talking
depends on
about.
the
I
stretch.
derailed it.
There's a few stretch episodes where it was pretty good, but yeah, for the most part, I kind of
There's some great episodes in season 3, but I mean, there was just a lot of mediocrity, and I am really excited. There's a lot of episodes that I would sit down and watch, and I just wasn't excited for. And I just watch them, and they were just like, okay, yeah, that happened. It was fine. This one, I've been more engaged by these episodes all season, even the one that you didn't like. But I've been more engaged by these episodes than I've been repeatedly or routinely engaged by Twilight Zone in a while.
There you go.
I don't know what everybody's talking about episodes or season 4.
I think we need to take him
Uh,
back and show him this, and then show him Perchance to Dream.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can agree with
If
that.
I have to
think Jacob
rewatch
needs
that
to go back and
episode,
watch
we are
that.
re-reviewing it.
No, we're just gonna make
We
you. We're
will
gonna
do
put you
battle.
in. We're gonna put you in the chair. Start
Clockwork
lift up the
Orange.
G forces.
There you go.
Make you look like you're constipated from the faces. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna Clockwork Orange it. Yeah, one dude like looked like he was constipated. Like he needed to take a shit. It was pretty funny.
It's like,
Some of the faces. Yeah.
Yeah.
but how could you look like that in that super comfortable looking chair?
I know,
All I
right?
could-
It
all
looked
I
like
could
it
think was
swallowed
the-
you whole.
All I could think was the chair was like you hit too many G forces and it pushes you back into the actual like outline on the chair. And then
It
like
looked
crap,
like-
we can't get you out.
It looked like they were gonna, it was half the mold that they used to make the robot from the day the Earth stood still.
Well, possibly.
Every time I looked at it, I was like, they're gonna like bring in the other half and like clamshell it together and fill it with something, and we're gonna get that robot. But no, they're chairs.
I will
Yeah.
say, you talk about this season's episodes, how they did have to dig deeper. So however burnt out Serling and the other writers were at this point, you can still see that they were trying. Like they added that effort to try and, okay, if we have to fill 15 minutes, we're going to fill it as well as we can.
Yeah.
And
think
sometimes
the
it
thing-
works and sometimes it doesn't. So
So far this season, I think it's worked.
yeah.
And I mean, Richard Matheson is like his second week in a row writing a script. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's he writes pretty decent episodes actually. Once
yeah.
Upon a Time, and but like I said, he's known for. I still think it's funny. He writes stuff like this, and he writes Stir of Echoes, which still makes me laugh. It's crazy that he wrote Stir of Echoes.
Well, if you think about it, sci-fi and horror or that kind of horror aren't that far apart. You're talking about different kinds of like traumas. The trauma you face,
Yeah.
like dealing with a ghost versus, or a murdered ghost versus, the rigors
Actually,
of space
you-
and all that stuff.
You nailed Richard Matheson right on the head there, Trev. He's all about like trauma, like dealing with trauma. Like I Am Legend. What's that robot movie that Hugh Jackman was in? Real Steel.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Real Steel deals with trauma, the death of I think the wife or something like that. Hell House, I think. What Dreams May Come. What's that?
Oof.
I searched the worst original Twilight Zone episode, and the first thing that popped up said the 10 worst Twilight Zone episodes of all time. And these aren't. I just see a clip of it, but
Yeah, I
never
think we
mind.
talked about this before.
No, I'm not. This article's
There's a lot of those.
Yeah.
no shit. I was on
Collider.
board. I was on board. Go to anyway. Jezebel.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Gotta click on this.
So
I'll read this later. What a dumbass.
Man, those cookies are
Eh.
gonna follow you around for weeks.
Somebody put the invaders on here.
Oh,
is the worst episode?
damn.
According to this article by Cinema Blend,
Well, that's your first problem.
well, I
Oof.
just this first thing that popped up. Mr. Beavis, the Mighty
Yeah.
Casey, which I don't think these are bad, but
No.
when we watched them, I know that they were seen as that. So none of these are. Oh my, Jezebel, the Invaders, The Whole Truth, Mr. Dingle the Strong, Black Leather Jackets, Cavender is Coming, I Dream of Jeannie, The Bewitching Pool.
Yeah, 3 of those are really terrible. Black Leather
Yeah.
Jackets, Blue Witchy Pool, and whatever one you just
The Whole
mentioned.
Truth wasn't that bad, but the Invaders definitely was. The Invaders is beloved.
I really enjoyed Mr. Beavis, but I know that I'm kind of
I liked Mr. Beavis from what I
Yeah.
remember.
Oh, I
Was-
Dream of Genie is supposed to be pretty bad as well.
yeah.
But with that said, is there anything else you guys want to talk about with this episode? Anything you want to bring up? Anything you want to?
They had some kinky
Uh,
boots going on. I'm just gonna say
I
that.
don't know. All you need is the gloves, and you have a kinky 70s disco dance.
Oh yeah.
I feel like they're the same boots that Napoleon Dynamite wore.
The moon boots.
Oh no, these were tight. I think they were pretty.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
very shiny.
Yes.
One day I gotta visit Iowa to see what Napoleon Dynamite was really like.
Oh God, you don't know.
No, no, I'm kidding. It's
I mean, you're
Idaho.
welcome. You're always welcome here. But I'm just saying it. That's we don't have llamas and we don't feed them tater tots, or we don't carry tater tots in
Yeah,
our pockets.
and you're also not called Idaho either. So
Well, not last time I checked. I can be
Yeah.
a hoe, but I'm not the hoe.
I thought
Uh,
Napoleon Dynamite when I first saw it took place in the 80s.
Well, it
No,
has that feel
was
for
just-
sure.
well, it looks like it
Midwest.
takes place in the 80s, and then you go to school. It looks like it takes place in like when I was going to school in 2000. It's really fucking weird.
You were going to school in 2000?
Yeah, I graduated 01.
I was a grown ass
Yeah.
man with a kid.
Well, I'm sorry we can't all be grown ass men with kids. Sometimes we have to be young kids with aspirations.
What year did you
for
graduate?
2001.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not that far. I graduated in 97.
That's when I
No,
started
really?
high school.
Yeah.
I
was supposed to
graduated
graduate
in 99. Wow.
I was supposed to graduate in 98.
So you were only a year ahead of me,
I
technically.
graduated a year early. There's a story behind it. It does not mean I'm Doogie Howser.
Eh.
It wasn't even a full year, but the actual it was literally the very end of the year of 1997. I think
Well,
I'm
still.
listed as graduated 1998 though. I still graduated with my class, but
You graduated like December of 97.
yeah.
So a
we'll
semester
go with it.
early. Yeah. Or you finished up. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, there's a story there, but I did graduate.
No, that's you did the thing. It's a long time ago. I graduated in
Did a
99,
lot of
so
things.
but yeah. Nick is the
So, yeah,
youngest
we-
one and he's 84 years old. Holy shit.
I know.
Alright.
I know.
2001
Crazy.
sounds so like it's not that far away, but it sounds like so far away from.
Dude, it's almost,
graduated.
it's 27 years ago or 20,
I was
27?
21 in
23.
23
2001.
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Like I passed my 20th anniversary of like high school, whatever they do every decade or whatever. It's crazy. I
Reunion.
don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's move on.
Nobody ever
So
invited.
anything else you want to talk about with Death Ship? Speaking of
Oh, there
dying.
was a piece of trivia that was kind of cool. Jack
Yeah.
Klugman was the only one to survive in 1997, and he's the only
Oh, that's
one that
crazy.
was. Yeah, that was insane. It's like holy shit.
says,
Oh,
crew
see,
members.
he actually was
Yeah.
survived to
He
the
died.
actual.
He died. Yeah, he died. He was almost 100. He was 90 years old when he died. So apparently, a crewman's shirt was also used on Thursday We Leave for Home. Was offered for an auction in late September 2015. And profiles of history was an estimated value of $1,000 to $1,500 with a winning bid of $1,600 by somebody named Matthew.
I see. Don't ever throw anything away. Nothing.
I know, right?
Like not a
Nothing.
thing. Not even a box. Nothing. I've learned that in my travels and with what I do now. Just everything is going to be worth something one day.
Unless
Unless
it's a
you
Beanie
keep
Baby.
If you keep it, it won't be worth shit. 'Cause if you don't try and predict what's going to be worth something, but everything I had so much shit. If I had never thrown anything away and just kept all the things I had when I was younger, which I did keep for a long time, by the way. Another story that we ain't gonna talk about. But if I kept all the things I had, I would have probably over $1 million worth of stuff.
Wow.
I don't have a lot. It's just how much stuff
Right.
ends up.
Well, no, it's
going.
like in the 40-year-old virgin. Like he sells all the stuff for like close to $1 million, and the I can't remember who the guy he was in Weeds with the black friend. He's like, we're gonna buy ourselves some toys and shit, collector shit, because it's like you don't ever know what's gonna be valuable. Like in this
I got
day
some
and age.
Star Wars Episode 1 figures that I bought from Toys R Us the night they released them when Episode 1 was coming out. Princess Amidala, C-3PO.
That shit's probably
Captain
worth stuff now
Tanaka.
since people care about the prequels.
I have no idea. They're in a bag somewhere. I literally got them, left them in the Toys R Us bag, rolled them up, and put them. They're still there. Never.
Probably eaten by rats or something.
I hope not.
That should be a good
Like,
Twilight Zone episode. You find out you have this big collection. You're taking a toy collector, and you get there, and it's been eaten by rats.
There's like 5 or 6
Uh,
of them. I know it was Princess Amidala, or no, not Princess. Padme is the Padme version. Captain Panaka and C-3PO, and there were some other. I didn't have like an Anakin or anything because those all got bought up before they even opened the doors. Yeah, because everybody was like, "Oh,
Um,
we're gonna get the new version of that little blue Boba Fett that everybody always sees at auction things." We did not.
we
Well,
did
it's like who would
not.
have thought VHSs of all things would have been a thing, you know?
Yeah, right. Now they're worth like Jesus fucking Albert just kicked me like a horse.
I'm
Ouch.
surprised VHS is worth something because those degrade so bad. Like,
Yeah.
People just want collection. People like it's overinflation of collecting, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know.
VHS in particular will not last. Like that tape is going to degrade and like it is not going to last. I mean, I'm sure there's some like airtight vault maybe you could put something, but for like 99.9% of people, eventually that tape just sitting there doing nothing will degrade. I mean, so will discs, but not to the effect of like a VHS tape. Fuckers. I mean, you fart near them and they're gonna break. I had a bunch of
Um,
VHS tapes somewhere.
all right. With that said, Jacob, let's do the closing narration.
Picture of a man who will not see anything he does not choose to see, including his own death. A man of such indomitable will that even the two men beneath his command are not allowed to see the truth. Which truth is that they are no longer among the living, that the movements they are making and the words they speak have all been made and spoken countless times before, and will be made and spoken countless times again, perhaps even unto eternity. Picture of a latter-day Flying Dutchman sailing into the Twilight Zone.
Dun dun dun.
Oof.
Sad times by sad people having sad things, sad affairs.
Depression, the ending.
Yep.
Okay, so that is season 4, episode 6, Death Ship. Good episode. I think we'll be interested to see where we're gonna rank it in our Twilight Zone ranking list, the greatest ranking list ever known to man.
Oh my god.
Oh, where is that? Oh, I see it.
It's Twitter.
Where's
It's
it?
in the
I didn't see
twits.
it. No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Why didn't it pop up here? You know,
I
you
don't
sent
know.
the link to did you send it to us individually?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because we were watching the episode before you came on.
Oh, okay. Because I was like sitting there
Yeah.
inside of this one, waiting, and I even had it typed out. I'm ready whenever you guys were. Because I was actually down here a few minutes early, and I was gonna let you guys know, but I ended up doing something else, and I was like, okay, well,
Wait, did you?
I never sent it. I had it typed out.
Oh, okay.
Because if I didn't hear something from you, because when I noticed, I was like, well, damn, I could have told him early, a few minutes early. I was like, well, it's about to be time. I'll just let him send it over. And like, if you hadn't sent it over at like 10, I was gonna be like, ready when you are.
Bitch. Here we are, bitch. Okay, so
32.
Well, no, I was
3.
gonna say I think this is better than Nick of Time.
What number is that?
18.
18.
But is it better than 5 characters in a bucket?
That's
That's a good
trash can
episode.
trip. Get it correct. Get it right.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good
sorry.
episode. That's a good
I don't know. Like I said, you have the grave. Is this better than the grave or Once Upon a Time or the Silence or like I would put this like
Yeah.
right above the Little People, but I don't know.
Which one was the Little People? I vaguely remember that.
Where they build the structure
Oh
of
yeah,
the
yeah,
guy.
yeah. They built like the big
Like the Futurama egg salad episode.
yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I
like
would
that
I
episode.
would rather watch this than It's a Good Life, but I'm not sure the rest of those around there, like if this is as good as the rest of those around there.
Like the trade-ins and Nightmare as a Child and stuff like that.
Yeah.
5 characters in search of a
Man,
trash
Nightmare as
can.
a Child is just not. I appreciate what it had to say. I know that's one of the big reasons it's up here because it's like very well done, and I appreciate the fact that it tackled this very like bad subject. That was a very unpleasant episode.
Yeah. Very much was.
I do feel like
That's why
whenever I want to
it's-
say about Nightmare as a Child real quick, every time we get in the vicinity of that episode, I feel like we tiptoe around it.
Oh,
It's
no,
almost
we
like
took-
we don't want to directly bring it down.
I
I
think
get that.
I honestly think it's a pretty powerful episode, but that's just
I do.
me.
I think it was good. It's just kind of like, yeah, there's just like
I think he's coming from the place of rewatchability.
definitely.
Oh yeah,
I
it's
never
definitely not
wanna watch it again.
rewatchable. Like when you find out maybe what they weren't going for, but that it feels like they're going for. Yeah, it's definitely
But then,
one of those
like, how do
episodes you don't want to be watching on New Year's Day. Hungover.
like I think that what it had to say was you used a good word, powerful, and I think that was I commend them for doing that. And I think it was a good episode too, but does that mean it's like untouchable? Like do we
I don't think it's
not ever
untouchable by any stretch, but I do think it requires, because of what it is, I think it requires a certain okay, where, is it, does it, for whatever that says about, certain subjects, is the rewatchability of whatever we're taking up against it, equal to it?
Well, yeah, like I said, I think that's what I'm saying is it's a great episode, but since it is, we all agree it's not a rewatchable episode in the
Right.
slightest. Doesn't that kind of, as far as ranking, take away from it? Because
Well,
don't
I
know.
mean, I think if you're looking at the justification of the what the series does, I think it definitely belongs up there. But it
I
all
don't think it doesn't
depends.
belong up there.
I
I'm
mean, it
not
all
saying
depends
that.
on like, yeah, I think it just all depends on like, at the time it was like a top 10 episode, but as we've gone farther, we've learned that maybe Twilight
Well,
Zone holds a little bit more than
it's
Rape of a
such a
Child.
it's such a different episode from everything else. It's hard to really put it up against anything else.
Yeah.
Whenever
Yeah.
it's in the little patch of grass that we're talking about, it's like right now, if we were looking at that, I'd be like, okay, is this better than It's a Good Life? Is it better than Five Characters in Search of an Exit? And then I just skip over that one and be like, is it better than The Trade-Ins? Is it better? Because I'm like, it's not really a question of is it better. It's just it is so different from everything else. It's hard to really compare it to something else and say, is it better than this? It's like, I don't want to say something's better than it because I think its message is extremely important, but we are talking about entertainment here. It's like, what?
Right.
Hold on.
Well, I
Anyway,
would say that too,
just a
we
side thought.
always kind of judge these things based on the conversation that we have around it too.
Mhm.
Like half the reason that a good chunk of these are where they are is because of the conversation either
sure.
elevates or takes down whatever the episode is.
Yeah, like with Perchance to Dream, it elevated it apparently for some people.
Okay. Asshole. I get it. Yeah, I deserve it.
Yeah, you're getting a downgrade of that episode, so hush. I mean, would we put this like above the trade-ins, or I guess I would put it like right
Trade-ins
in
was
the
the old
trade-ins
couple, right?
nightmares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
They
one
got the new
they
bodies, or
yeah.
they could only
one
get
gets a
one.
new body. Yeah.
That
I
was
mean, Will the
I
Real
like
Martian
that
Please Stand
episode.
Up has the goofy guy in the diner.
With the
Then
third
they
eye.
all die
Yeah.
on the bridge by Nan Adams.
Basically, yeah. I think she was the one flying the
Mm.
spaceship, honestly.
Probably. She was a
that's why-
computer.
it never did say how they wrecked.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a computer. Hello, computer.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know where to put this.
I mean, just what I have on my screen. I think you started at Nick of Time. I like this more than Nick of Time. Five Characters is one. I like Five Characters more than a lot of these other episodes. I would have put Five Characters higher, but I'm happy with where it's at. I'm going to skip that one because I do have I feel like I like it a bit more than everybody else. It's a Good Life. Which one is It's a Good Life?
That's where kid wishes everybody into the cornfield.
Oh yeah, I like this one more than that one because I have such a hard time talking about that episode because it's like I'm talking about that and the '80s one at the same
Yeah.
time. And I love
Fair.
the '80s one. I have a real hard time detaching those. Nightmares of Child. I'd rather watch this. The Trade-ins. Man, that was such a feel good episode there at the end.
It was
Like,
wholesome.
bittersweet wholesomeness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a
I
neat
gotta stop
little.
putting myself on mute. No, this is my honest opinion. Honestly, how I feel. I think this episode is up there with like Shadow Play as like an ending where Shadow Play is we actually did talk about, but it's very similar to Shadow Play where he keeps revisiting the same shit over and over and over. And
Oh yeah, you're
he
right.
can't get out of his own personal hell. And I think this is. I think
more Shadow
honestly,
Play?
I think this is one of the strongest episodes we've had. Even
I remember
more than
bits
season
and
3.
pieces
This
of
episode
Shadow Play.
surprised me.
I remember suddenly
was-
like they're in like an apartment cooking a turkey or something like that. What was
No, Shadow Play is where he's on trial. And he goes to
Yeah.
the electric chair and then it's like an actual play.
Yeah,
Um,
okay. I was trying to
but
I remember bits and pieces of the
like-
episode, but I couldn't remember what the thing was. Yeah, you're right. Okay. I
Yeah,
remember.
like there's like a detective and stuff like that.
That was really well done, yeah. Didn't like the world ending slowly, like his world or something like that? Or the dream? Or something?
Yeah, like things disappear, that type
Yeah.
of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I would put in that realm. Like we're getting to like real cream of the crop territory. Like that's the big question. Do you think this deserves to be that high? Is the question.
I don't look at it like that. We do that a lot. I try not to look at the number, especially with how some of these are. Like I've said, I think every week each of us will say, "Well, I'd put this one higher or lower or whatever."
Yeah.
I try and look. That's why I'm always like, "Where are we starting?" And you say over here at number 18. I only ask for the number so I know where the hell it is on this list. And then I find it, and I just look at the ones around it, and I compare it to them individually. I try not to pay attention to where it is because there are times that we'll be looking at an episode, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Oh, it's number this. I feel like it should be higher or lower just based on a number in general. So I try not to pay much attention to the numbers myself.
Fair.
I don't want to get hung up on where it is numeral wise.
So this is a bit radical, but and I'm middle of the road on this because shadow play is so good. And again, we've talked about this, but like shadow play is probably better than at least a stop at Willoughby, despite the message that
I think so.
Willoughby kind of has. But I
Can't
don't
believe Stop
know.
It Will Be still in the top 10. Like,
Yeah.
or is it walking? No, Walking Distance. I can't believe Walking Distance still. That's crazy.
But it's
It's
such
like
a good
the second
episode.
episode.
Yeah.
No, I know, but like we've been doing this for like 2.5 years or whatever, and Walking Distance is still top 10. It's crazy. But anyway, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No. I don't know. Would you pump this up to like above a stop at Willoughby? Is
So
that
we're
too
talking about
far
top
up?
10 now.
Yeah.
I
But
I honestly
that's my
think Shadow
question.
Play. Well, no, I think Shadow Play is a little bit stronger.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Well, it was
I
just
think it's better than a stop at Willoughby, but I think that Shadow Play is better than a stop at Willoughby too.
Yeah, I'm kind of in
is
that
it better
boat
than
too.
Purple Testicle?
That's a good question.
I think Shadow Play is, and I love Purple
Yeah.
Purple Testament. But
Get some ice on those purple testicles.
In retrospect, I think Shadow Play is probably a better episode than Purple Testament. Is this better than Purple Testament?
I don't know. I
Performance-wise,
would put
no.
it like
The
right below
performances,
Shadow Play.
the performances carry Purple Testament a long way. The actual story itself, I don't know. Maybe it's right around. I'm right around in there. I will be pleased with anything in that area. It ain't got to be top 10, but I mean, if it is, it is. If it's not, whatever. If you're talking around Shadow Play, I'm happy.
I wish I like randomizer counter. So we're either gonna put this either above Stop It Willoughby or below Shadow Play.
You know, being
just put
that
it above Shadow Play.
But if Shadow Play is Shadow Play a better episode than this? That's the question, I think.
I think they are very different, but I think that they are real damn close. But if we put it at a Stop at Willoughby, that would still be above Shadow Play.
No, I know, but that's why I'm asking. That's kind of the thing you know, if it's better than Shadow Play, I think we'd jump it up to above a Stop at Willoughby just because of that merit.
I don't know, man. Shadow Play is a pretty damn solid ass episode. Because not only did it have an interesting, good story, but the way it delivered that story was really good. The visuals, Shadow Play had a lot. I don't think this episode, I don't think visually, nothing wrong with it visually, but I don't think it visually does anything particularly interesting.
Right. No,
it's fine. I mean, it's solid, but it's not. There's nothing particularly memorable about this episode from its visual standpoint, besides like the technical side of things that we were talking about, like with the ships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Shadow Play had a solid story, but it also had a very striking visual element to it as well.
Now, actually, I have to disagree with you on that point because how can you not see those amazing
boots?
No, I was gonna say the chairs. How can you look at those amazing chairs and say that Shadow Play is better than that?
That's a prop. That's not really a technical.
Oh, come on. It was like the house from The Haunting. It was alive, man.
It was a character unto itself. They were characters.
It was. Absolutely. No, that in that's a good point. I'd say put it in below Shadow Play. That's my vote.
All right. So I think that's good. I think that's perfect. Which I never thought a season 4 episode would hit the top 20. It's crazy.
I really want an episode from season 4 to be in top 10. Just because.
Well, I mean, we have Miniature coming up, so that's a very good possibility. That
is it. That's after Jezebel's.
Yep.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say,
I say Miniature has Robert Duvall in it too.
Yeah.
Oh.
I would honestly say, and I doubt I'm probably alone in this camp, but Printer Devil to me is a really amazing episode. But I don't know. I don't think it's anywhere near top 10 by any stretch. So that's Burgess Meredith's last Twilight Zone appearance.
Hey guys, we still have the Bewitchy pool, so Jacob, you might get your chance. I mean, we still have the Bard.
Jizzbells?
Yeah, we still have Jizzbells, so I mean, Jacob, you might have your chance.
Jizzballs.
Okay. So
Watch
with
when
that
we
said,
do that, someone's gonna come into the comments and be like, "How dare you disrespect Jezebel, you bastards!"
I'd be like, have you not seen Jezbol's? Yeah.
Well, I'm looking
Bull
forward to
jizz.
next week now. I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
looking
we
forward to
also
watching this episode, but I'm looking forward to talking about it.
right.
Chestnuts roasting on a jizz ball.
Jesus.
Jizz ball.
Let
Nipping
me
at
see.
your nose.
Next week, I'll probably be watching this the day my wife's at work. So I'll probably be watching Jizz Bells while I'm cooking dinner.
But with that said, new number 13, Death Ship. Number 1, still Eye of the Beholder. Number 10, I gotta look this up. Number 108, still The Trouble with Templeton. We'll see soon if that changes for the top bottom spot. Next episode
Is
is
it
of
that
course,
much worse, Triv, in your opinion? Like, what is there a gulf between The Trouble with Templeton and Jizz Balls?
I don't think that this is very bottom of the barrel. I would say it's bottom 15. Like I
Oh,
would
okay.
I would for me I would probably put it because I think like the Fever, I like the Fever better than you guys did. But like I personally would put that one from what I remember of it, and it's been a long time since I've seen it, down around 4 o'clock just because it annoys me so much. But you guys might not
You
see it
guys
that way.
hated that episode.
4 o'clock?
what, 4
Yeah,
o'clock?
it did
No,
not
I hated
offend
that
me
episode.
nearly as much as it did you guys. Maybe it was just Nick. I don't know. I remember you like hated that episode. Like you took offense to that episode, and I was like, I mean, it's not a good episode by any means, but I ain't really that messed up about it. You fucking hated it.
I mean, the next episode, which of course is season 4, episode 7, Jizbel, as we've talked about. Triv, we're finally
Jizbal.
getting to this episode to get past it, to never talk about it again.
Well, we'll probably
talk about it weekly.
exactly.
Yeah, I know. But they ranked
We
it
already
pretty
do,
low,
so.
of course. They ranked it 151 out of 156.
Yeah.
So that gives
And
you
I
any
think
inclination of what we're getting ourselves into.
Yeah, no, so I don't necessarily agree with them a lot, but on this particular one, yeah, I again, this is me. It's kind of like you, Jake, with the Invaders. I'm looking at this after not seeing it in many years, so I could come back and go, it's not as bad as I thought it was, and you guys will be like, oh my god, this sucks, or I'll be like, man, this is just as bad as I remember, and you guys will be like, it wasn't bad. We're putting it above a piano in.
You guys have worn out your welcome with a piano. I'm gonna edit it out every time you say it. No, I'm kidding. But the episode is directed by Buzz Kulik, written by Errol Hamner Jr. Stars Anne Francis, James Best, Lauren Devon, Janet Nolan. James Best, pretty good actor. Too bad he's in apparently
Anna
a shitty
Francis
episode.
is pretty solid too. So I think she was in something, not Forbidden Planet, but something like that. So.
She's in I think she's the main girl in After Hours, actually.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, she plays the main lead actress.
Remember those days? After
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Long
After
time ago
Hours,
in a
first
galaxy far, far away.
The inspiration from Mannequin.
Yep. Kim Cattrall, man.
Mannequin 2,
but anyways. But we also may have Jacob's favorite guest on that episode, so we're still working out the details on that, but returning guest possible.
Who's my favorite guest?
Well, you'll figure it out eventually. But anyways, that'll do it for our talk on Death Ship. It's been awesome. Good episode. Triv, Jacob, awesome as always. Enough of our shenanigans. We all want to go to bed. Jacob, you have content. Hopefully it's coming soon. What is that content?
Yes, on Retro Jake XY YouTube channels. I do retro video game documentaries and other content around that. Check it out. Just became monetized not too long ago, finally, and have a new. Takes a while to get video out, but I got a new slate of videos coming very soon. I say that every week, but I actually do now. Should hopefully over the course of the next couple of weeks it will be live. I'm about to start doing some little teasers here or there once a week to drum up some excitement for it. So go check out my channel and the videos that are already there, and hope you enjoy the content.
Well, when you feel like shipping your pants or death shipping your bed, you can come over and visit.
Death shipping your bed.
Sorry. You can come over to Trivial Theater, do a wide array of random, obscure, straight up bad movies. I just did Hottie and Naughty. By the time this drops, ideally speaking, I'll have my next collab out, but that is up in the air. It's a Bruce Lee exploitation movie that is something to behold. Bruce Lee has a boner that doubles as nunchucks at one point, so you know it's good. You know
I'm
it's
here.
quality.
Jacob's all about it. It's the Remo Williams of Bruce Lee movies or whatever.
Boner chucks.
Yay.
Butter chucks.
Yep.
Oh God. Anyways, I'm at Movie Emporium. Once again, not really doing much of anything at the moment. Still doing this podcast and of course Masters of the Air, which will be a couple more episodes and it'll be finished. But other than that, yeah, rate, subscribe. You know what to do. Give our channel some love as you think we're on drugs, which we probably are. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that'll do it. For myself, Triv, and Jacob, we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out, motherfuckers.
He's not completed it, and he had blasphemy to say.
You bastard.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, the movie was so boring I fell asleep.
It's not boring. It has character and world building.